Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Euston Station to Bethnal Green in East London. This ride takes about half an hour and you can do pretty much the whole thing on protected cycleways and quiet streets. We're going to take a slightly indirect route to avoid some of the busiest roads, but it's still pretty quick and I think you'll agree it's worth it for a quiet life. If you find this video useful, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel because I post more like it every week. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting outside Euston Station by the Euston Tap Pub that used to be the gatehouse to the old station before it was rebuilt, and we're joining the new cycle lane down Euston Road. This cycle lane is very wide and it's protected lightly with these little wands, which you can see are actually doing a pretty good job, I think, of keeping the traffic out. I think it's actually a pretty nice addition to the road. It's only very short, unfortunately, so it's useful for this journey, but it's not useful for all journeys down Euston Road. There's also a corresponding cycle lane on the other side of the road if you're doing this journey in reverse. Now, we want to cross the road, and the way you do that is a bit counterintuitive. We actually go left into Ossulton Street, and then a second stage we actually join the lights here and go through a cut through, so you turn left to go right. And then you come through here and you go up Mabledon Place, which has a little segregated cycle lane up the top. Now we're going to some sort of quieter streets around the King's Cross area now. The first of those is Bidborough Street, which will connect us to Judd Street, which is just coming up now. Now, you could actually join Judd Street straight from Euston Road, but I actually think that the interface for getting from Euston Road to Bidborough Street is a little bit better when you're on the cycle lane, so I've chosen to go that way. These streets are pretty quiet. Judd Street actually isn't a through route for traffic, so you won't really see any cars on it. And then you turn straight into Cromer Street. We're now running parallel to the Euston Road, but on a much quieter route. And you can see why that is. At the end of this little cobbled section here, there is a bollard which keeps out all the through traffic, but it still lets us go through. That's called filtered permeability. And then you just weave your way around Harrison Street. And if you think you might get lost here, you can follow the C6 signs, which will show you the way. That's a signposted route, which refers to Cycleway 6. It's a Transport for London route. We're going to be following that route for a little bit, but not for the whole journey, so yeah, it's only just for now. This is a pretty classic backstreets route heading southeast from Euston and King's Cross. So yeah, you'll probably have seen this in a few other videos. Now we're coming up to a light here. This is actually a temporary light because of construction works or road works. And then we go straight into this little cut through on Ampton Street, which is again filtered. This is a little bit annoying. Someone's sort of stopped their van there. I think he was delivering a package, so it's not really the end of the world. And you can see it's still a nice place to ride. There's people just on Boris bikes there. I actually think that this journey could be quite nice on Boris bikes if you're arriving at, say, Euston Station and you're going to go all the way to Bethnal Green. In fact, later on I will show you a Boris bike rank right next to where we're going to finish the ride at Bethnal Green, so if you are doing that journey that should be helpful. This part of the ride is a little bit twisty and turny around the back street, so if you're not familiar with it, then we are still on Cycleway 6, so do be following the C6 symbols on the road, and up there on the left that green and blue sign. This traffic light shouldn't really be here when you come there. It's just a temporary one for some roadworks. I haven't seen it before. It may have already been removed. And do be careful here because on weekdays there's quite a bit of construction going on at these flats, so you know there'll be vehicle movements around. There's also a Royal Mail sorting office here, and most of the drivers are pretty good, but I mean that one just there decided to ride down the wrong side of the road, which is a little bit annoying. Just a quick note, by the way, about the cycle lane down Euston Road that we used right at the beginning of this video. I know that that's not actually going to be permanent. It's going to be removed when HS2 construction traffic needs that part of the lane. It's just been put in temporarily. So you can use an alternative route there, which is to go down Gordon Street, and that will actually connect you with Sidmouth Street, which we came on to. You can look at that on a map. Now, we're actually still on C6 here, but we are joining a proper segregated cycle lane right down the main road, down Farringdon Road, so there's not really any need for extra directions here, and we're going to be going straight down this for a bit, although we're not going to be staying on it for too long, and we will be looking out for a turn on the left in a minute. This part of the route is generally very, very good, I would say. I think the protected curb lanes are really excellent to ride on. There are a couple of things to watch out for though. This little bit here doesn't have any segregation, and as you go past the construction site just near Farringdon Station here, I've often seen vehicles and stuff parked in the lane, so do be a bit cautious as you approach this aspect. But generally it's pretty good. So I said we're turning left. It's not the first left here. It's not this one. We're actually going to be going left down Smithfield, so it is the next one after this. If in doubt, it's the one just before the viaduct here. You can see the viaduct, the Holborn Viaduct going overhead. Now you turn down West Smithfield. Now this is a one-way street, but if you were doing this in the other direction, you can see there's a cycle lane on the right there. It's protected. It currently has a Royal Mail van in it, but you know. And then you turn off right just here. It's a very sharp turn through the cut-through. And then you go down this little passage here, down Hosier Lane. One thing I quite like about the streets around the City of London is they're all named after sort of things that they would have sold, like commercial things, where presumably that's where the market would have been back in the day. And yeah, Hosier, I think, is where they would have sold hose, like trousers, basically, or trousers or leggings or stockings or whatever they wore back in the day. Now, we're actually on a signposted route here. We're following just these Q symbols. There isn't, as far as I know, a number. It's just the quiet way link into the city. Here's Cloth Fair, presumably where they would have sold cloth, I would imagine. And yeah, this is generally a pretty nice route. I'm not sure to the extent to which these streets are actually filtered, but the entire City of London basically has a sort of low traffic neighbourhood added to it with some strategic closures at the entrance and exits, which actually makes it really nice to ride on quite a lot of streets. I'll show you one of those in a second. Now, this looks like a busy junction, but you don't have to worry because we're not on the busy bit. You see these no entry signs? These basically say motor vehicles aren't allowed through, but you see that car that just passed us very dangerously. You will note that that was allowed to go through, and the reason for that is that the City of London basically has a policy of there are exemptions on its low traffic neighbourhoods for hybrid and electric vehicles. So I did actually look up the number plate on that car, and it is a hybrid, so it is technically allowed to go there. And that's quite annoying. Normally when you go through, there is not a lot of traffic, and that guy kind of spoiled it a little bit for us. But, you know, it's certainly better than nothing, and you can see these streets are kept relatively clear. Now, we're just going straight on here, and you're continuing to follow this Q route. There are cycle symbols on the road. And yeah, this bit is okay. I find that on weekdays there are a lot of delivery vans down here, even though it is a low traffic area, because the delivery vans are obviously allowed to enter and make deliveries. But it's only a short stretch, and it's pretty well done, and I think it's better than the alternative, which if you'd taken a more direct route, staying northwards, then there's a lot more traffic on those streets. This cycle track here is very nice, I think, through Finsbury Square. I think it's really good. I wish the whole route was like this. It would be excellent, but it isn't. But, you know, it's still pretty good. Now, you come to Sun Street, and at the Flying Horse pub, which I think is a lovely name for a pub, you turn left, and you go up Euston Street. And we're now following CS1, although not for very long. It's really just on this street. This street shouldn't have very much traffic on it either. It does, as you're about to see in a second, it has a filter at the end. It's this gate which doesn't allow motor traffic through, which keeps it quite quiet. And there's a similar sort of thing going on here. Unfortunately, there are a little bit of roadworks going on this road at the moment, and I think the combination of the street has quite a bit of parking on it, and also roadworks, and also vans parked up on the side, you'll see in a second, it actually makes it not as comfortable for cycling as it could be. This bit's particularly problematic here. You can see that they've sort of lost half the carriageway, plus the parking, plus the guy parked up. When you have to pass a vehicle, it can get a little bit tight. But it's not the worst ride. It could certainly do with improvement. Now we're coming up to the Great Euston Street junction here, and there are a couple of ways you can go here. You don't want to go right across there. That would send us up to Hackney. What you do want to do is you want to come on the shared use pavement here and wait for a crossing. That light there that you can see is not a light for you. That's a light for the traffic on the road. So you really just need to cross that road by looking out for cars and waiting for a gap. It's usually a pretty heavy trafficked road, so there probably won't be a gap until the lights actually stop the cars, and then you'll be able to go. So you're almost like a secondary benefit from waiting. This street can be a little bit busy as well. You need to wait to cross that. It's the same sort of deal though. It's not signal controlled. Now what we're doing at the moment is we're going down Rivington Street through Shoreditch. I think this is a pretty cool ride. It's through quite an interesting part of town, and we're actually following a quiet way here. This quiet way is numbered on the road, and it's called Q13, Quiet Way 13, and we're going to be following this for a short bit of time. This route, we follow a few signposted routes for a very short bit of time, but we don't really stick to any one of them, but they kind of steer us through the little bits. This little bit here is a little bit too narrow to have parking on, to be honest. A cyclist in a car can't pass and you have to pull over, but you know, it's not the end of the world. And here, if you were doing this in the opposite direction, this is a one-way street, and you can see there's a contraflow sort of, not quite lane, but contraflow bit for cyclists there. And we really just keep going here. Now you brake from Quiet Way 13 here and turn right, and this is actually a bit of a shortcut. You go down Chambord Street and then you head into this little bit of the estate here, and what you need to do is you need to go all the way through and then keep an eye out on the right here for a dropped curb which cycles can go up, and a little hole in that metal fence, and then you want to go through that little alleyway here and you come out onto Gosset Street. And that's actually saved us a bit of a detour, which sticking with Quiet Way 13 would have created. It would have taken a lot more time to do that, and also it's on much less busy roads. And actually when I did it, the alternative route there was actually blocked off by roadworks, so it was actually necessary to do that. By the way, this is probably a good time to say that if you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then do make sure you subscribe to the channel, because I post ones like it on quiet streets and protected cycleways. I post new ones every week, and yeah, they're great fun. So yeah, make sure you hit subscribe down there. Now, this street is pretty good. It's not got huge levels of traffic on it, and the reason for that is that it is a filtered street. You can just see here, we went through a traffic filter here, and we're on we went through another filter there which says no entry except cycles, and we're on Old Bethnal Green Road. Now this bit's lovely. Tower Hamlets Council has actually just redone this. You can see if you're doing this in the opposite direction, there's a great segregated cycleway, contraflow lane there, and we're about to go through a new bit of public space that the council's put in, which also doubles as a traffic filter. So cars used to be able to just drive down this road. It was like an ordinary street, but now we just go on this little cycle lane here, past this lovely seating and these plants. And what that's doing is not only providing great public space, but it's keeping the both roads on both sides of it a little bit clear of traffic, which is nice. Now you want to turn right into St Jude's Road, and you come out to an estate here. And there's a couple of ways that you can negotiate through this, but I'm going to do it in a way that means you don't have to get off your bike. So you go through, you squeeze through that little bit on the corner. You could go straight ahead here, but there's a curb. So instead we're going to go around here, through the car park of the estate. Now there are these weird perforations on the road. You can either just go over them if you're on a mountain bike or something. I do that here. Ooh, bit bumpy. Or you can actually steer around them. It's not actually a problem. And then that takes us out, and we rejoin where we were a second ago. And we're on a cobbled bit here, and Hollybush Gardens. Now Hollybush Gardens is where you can find this Boris bike rack that's just on the right here. So if you were doing this journey by Boris bike, you get off a train at Euston and jump on a Boris bike, you could get off here. And we're now here. This is Bethnal Green Road, and just ahead of you there, just on that green railway track, is Bethnal Green Station. So yeah, thanks very much for watching that, guys. I hope it was useful. I think it was a nice route, pretty good. It's quite easy. It's a little bit more indirect than the most direct route, but it still only takes half an hour, and I think it's the best way to do it personally. Hopefully one day we'll get cycle lanes between Clerkenwell and Old Street, down Theobald's Road and Old Street, and then that little dog leg could be cut out. But for now we don't have that, so I think that's the best way to do it. So yeah, do subscribe, do like the video, and thanks very much. See you again next time.